Fasten your seatbelt. I'm taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
What you're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me. And my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making.
Something movie podcast. It is episode number 298. Another 48 hours. Very, very quickly, we spoil the movies that we talk about. We spoil freely here, so just be warned. We're just going to talk freely, and we're all good here now. How are you? iTunes reviews. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a 6-star review if you want to. What you can do is you go onto iTunes, you pick the 5 stars, and then you take a Sharpie and you draw a 6-star on your computer screen. Do not do that. The 30-something movie podcast does not condone drugs or what was that, Repo Man? The brothers, was it the brothers Hernandez? I forget what their last name was. Do not condone drugs. So there's that too. We actually don't condone drawing with Sharpie on your computer or device screen, so please don't do that. Visit our, if you choose to do that, then we are the Friendly Fire podcast, I guess. Visit our website, 30podcast.com. I actually don't want to get those guys in trouble either. So 30podcast.com. It's got all the different ways that you can reach out and get a hold of our podcast, whether you want to call us on our voicemail line, listen to more of the episodes, just kind of find out more about what's going on, or if you want to just go back. And we have approximately, what do we got? Almost 5 years worth of stuff at this point. So there's a lot of movies that you can go back and listen to, you know. We are nearing our 300th episode. So our 300th episode is going to be, at this point, you may have seen some stuff out on social media. If you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, we are doing a most quotable or referenced movies. And we've got a bunch of different categories out there. If you want to be a part of this, feel free. You can send those in to us, either do it through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, any of those spots. If you want to call the voicemail line, we'll actually play the recording on the air and respond to it. And so we'll go from there. But if you've got anything, if you want to share any of your responses to that, then we would love to hear from you. So I'm sure you'll see more of that either on our website or on the different social media spots. So I have with me tonight, I've got Bo is here. Bo, how are you doing?
I'm well, John. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Patrick?
Doing good, guys. Good to see you.
I think, Patrick, you and I have gotten, and Dennis is here. He's kind of listening. He's like the man behind the curtain thing.
I'm here officially now for the start, and then
you're here for the start, and then you're gonna
chime in once in a while.
Chime in every now and then. Okay. Bo is kind of the odd man out, which I know he kind of is sometimes anyway, but we still love him. He is the only one that does not have the Big Lebowski background on the Zoom call here. So he's probably feeling a little bit left out. What I expect to see, Bo, next time is that you will have photoshopped all of the Big Lebowski characters onto the bridge of the Enterprise.
I was going to say, it's...
Now we're talking.
There we go. And then I want them to get into an argument. One of them will be like, the Enterprise A is the best model. Enterprise D is the best model. Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. And then I want to have Pat sitting back at like the I want Pat back at like the science officer station being like, guys, all the Enterprises are the best. They're all great.
There's a lot of awesome stuff out there, John. I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but it's awesome.
So it is episode number 298, another 48 hours. Let me jump very quickly here to, I don't have any news or anything like that. So I think if you guys are ready, we'll just jump on into the episode. So this time around, our movie is another 48 hours. It came out on the 8th of June, 1990, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 33 minutes. Directed by Walter Hill, who also did The Warriors and Red Heat. Producer on this one, Lawrence Gordon and Robert D. Wachs, who died in 2013. Gordon also produced Predator, Die Hard, and Watchmen. Walks, I don't know if it's Walks or Watches. I don't remember. I don't know. Beverly Hills Cop 2 and The Golden Child. Writers on this one, the characters were created by Roger Spottiswoode, Walter Hill, Larry Gross, and Stephen E. D'Souza. Also written by Eddie Murphy, John Fasano, who died in 2014, Jeb Stewart, and Larry Gross. Murphy also wrote for Beverly Hills Cop 2 and Coming to America. Fasano wrote for Universal Soldier: The Return. Stewart wrote The Fugitive and Die Hard, and Gross wrote the movie True Crime. Cinematography by Matthew F. Leonetti. He also did Commando, Dragnet, and Star Trek First Contact. Music by James Horner from 2015. He died in 2015. He also did The Rocketeer, Aliens, and Braveheart. Budget for this one was $50 million. Box office was $153.5 million. Let's try that again. Flick metrics. I gotta be careful how I say that one, because if I get tongue-tied, bad stuff happens. Flick, I'll take Catherine Deneuve and Charo. Anyway, combines the twice. No, Mr. Connery. Combines Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and Letterboxd, and gives a average score of 47% for this movie. Cinema Score gives this one an A-. So apparently the people that went to the theater to see this really liked it. Eddie Murphy plays Reggie Hammond. He was in Trading Places, Coming to America, and Shrek. Nick Nolte played Jack Cates. He was in The Prince of Tides, Cape Fear, and I Love Trouble. Brian James, who died in 1999, played Ben Kehoe. He was in Blade Runner and The Fifth Element. Kevin Tighe was Blake Wilson. He was in Roadhouse and 8 Men Out. Ed O'Ross was Frank Cruz. He was in Dick Tracy, Red Heat, and Lethal Weapon. David Anthony Marshall played Willie Hickok. He was in Lockup and The Demolitionist. Andrew Divoff played Richard Cherry Gans. He was in Air Force One and Wishmaster. And then Bernie Casey, who died in 2017, played Kirkland Smith. He was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Revenge of the Nerds. Here is the trailer, and we will be back in just a second.
You don't know what you do to me. Want to get some stuff? God, and I got the feeling. Hey!
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. What is the
It's been 7 long years.
Look, I got 48 hours to bring this guy in. I'm history.
You want me to go out with you for another 48 hours?
Now look, Reggie, this time I promise you it's gonna be different.
But Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte are back.
Let me tell you something. I ain't working for you. I don't like you, and I don't trust you.
Welcome back, Reg.
And they're making up for lost time.
We got the same car, same clothes.
That's the way I like it. I get attached to things, Reggie.
Another 48 hours.
Oh, you're in trouble with the law this time. Good.
Eddie Murphy, Nick Nolte.
I'm driving.
I was wanting a chauffeur, Reggie.
Another 48 hours.
Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light.
Our usual first question here is, how does this movie make you feel? Bo, how do you feel?
Like I should have watched 48 hours instead of another 48 hours.
That makes sense.
It's stuff is underwhelming. That's underwhelmed. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Underwhelmed.
All right. Pat, what about you?
Yeah, same thing. It was the sequel trap. I mean, I hate to say it, just seemed like kind of a not super well fleshed out story. It didn't seem like the bad guy was really a super compelling bad guy. And I guess, yeah, it was just, kind of a so-so movie.
Okay. All right. Dennis, what about you?
Going back, I mean, I started reading the kind of synopsis and everything on, because I had not seen it recently, and that's why I said I wouldn't be in as much of this. But it's kind of, I think that points to I think that is probably the reason why I can't remember as much about this one, is because I probably agree with both of you on there. Underwhelming is a good word for it, and I think like I kept thinking when I started thinking, oh yeah, I remember that movie. That was the first one. That was a good scene. That was the first one. Everything come back to the first one. There's not a whole lot from the second one that I remember. And that's why I felt like I wasn't going to be prepared for the podcast without having seen it. But it sounds like I haven't. There's a reason that I missed much, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I said, I think, and the odd thing is, I think I do remember one stat, just looking up on was it Wikipedia or whatever just now, or IMDb. Eddie Murphy got like $200,000 for the first one, I think. Was it like 12 million for this one? Mm. So it's so interesting. Like the sequel was about the money and the story wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, for this one, it was very much underwhelmed. I think I'm gonna have to steal that one too. I had one point, I was kind of convinced that I had not seen 48 Hours before. I had not seen this one before, but I thought I had not seen 48 Hours before. Then I watched this one because I wasn't sure I was going to have time to go back and try to watch 48 Hours. Watch this one, and then I went and started to watch 48 Hours, the first one. And as I'm watching that, I'm like, no, you know what? I've seen this. I've seen this movie. Like, I didn't think I had seen this movie, but I've seen this movie. Annette O'Toole was the first thing that kind of jogged my memory. But I was like, yeah, no, I've seen this movie. I don't know why I would have forgotten it, but then watching this one, I was just like, I'm bored. Like it's it's 1990, but it's like it's a 80s/90 buddy cop movie, and it's got Eddie Murphy in it, and I'm bored. I'm not engaged in this movie at all. There's nothing. It almost is, and I'm starting to get into the what do we don't like about it part of it, but it's almost a parody of the first movie. Like it seemed to me like there was a lot of stuff that was very similar to the first movie, almost too much so. And I almost, in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, you know what? This really reminds me, this is like the reverse of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Because I would see Evil Dead as being like, Evil Dead was like the college film. It was like the very low budget. And then they got handed some more money. And they're like, okay, let's take Evil Dead and let's remake it,
better
as Evil Dead 2. And we'll make it better. And this was like the reverse. This one was like, hey, we had a pretty good movie in, was it 90 or was it 80, 82? Is that when 48 Hours came out? I want to say maybe it was 82. So 48 Hours came out almost a decade before this one. And then I feel like you went backwards. You were just like, hey, remember how funny the first one was? Let's up the funny. And let's just kind of redo the first one, but up the funny. And so I kind of felt like that's what this one was. And it almost just became a joke of itself. And it was not, I don't know. I wasn't entertained.
I know you brought up the Evil Dead reference, which is good because it is accurate too. I mean, I just recently gone through those, and it's like, yeah, but I had to get I knew I had to show the kids and get through Evil Dead first, get the Evil Dead 2. I mean, I felt like I needed to show them all, and I was like, get through this one, yeah. This one's good, but it's not as good as the second one in Army of Darkness. And I'm like, you got to get to those. Yeah. But the other comparison that I thought of when I was thinking about these movies is Lethal Weapon. Like, to me, Lethal Weapon 2 is awesome. And then it's Lethal Weapon. And that's probably how I'd rank them at 2, then 1, then I think 3 or 4. But 2 and then 1. So I felt the sequel, and it's, buddy cop movie. And I felt 2 was really, really good for Lethal Weapon. And this one, it was complete opposite of that. It just flip-flopped. It was like it should never have been made. Because I'm saying right now, like, based on what you guys are saying, I was sitting there thinking, I'll still go watch another 48 Hours. Now I'm thinking I'm not going to.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I read the synopsis again, and I'm like, and then if you guys would have been like, oh, it was great, I'm like, all right, I'll check it out again. But right now, I don't think I'm going to be, I'd rather catch up and get the next movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we're actually going to do a little bit of a flip flop here too. We've kind of started with what we don't like, and we'll go into the other stuff here in just a minute. But one of the things I was thinking of was when I'm watching this movie, it almost gave me the sense that when I say the title of this movie out loud, after having watched it, I'm just like, oh, another 48 Hours. Like, that's not what they intended, I'm sure, when they made the movie. They're like, hey, it's another 48 Hours. But for me, it's just like, oh, another 48 Hours. And that's how I felt coming out of this movie. Like, it should have been.
That's how you say it.
Right. And
another 48 hours.
Another
48 hours.
Right. And it was
with
just
the rolling eyes.
Right. And even like the Beverly Hills Cop movies that, they weren't good after a while. That, I mean, it's Eddie Murphy. And I feel like Eddie Murphy, I should be able to watch an Eddie Murphy movie, because this is still young Eddie Murphy. And I'm like, I'm not laughing as I should. Like, I love Eddie Murphy. I love his comedy. I love him in the Beverly Hills Cop movies, Coming to America, like all that stuff. And he was hilarious in the first 48 hours too. But in this one, I wasn't finding the comedy. I could really care less about the whole story. If you're out there and you hate glass, maybe this is the movie for you. If you have a complete hatred or phobia of glass and mirrors and windows, then you would love this movie. Like, this is a revenge. This is a revenge movie for anything that's fragile or breakable.
Mm-hmm.
Because there will be 50 million people thrown through a window or a mirror or something else at some point in this movie. That was like, to me, that was like the entertaining part of this movie. It wasn't the movie itself. It was like how else can they throw somebody through a window? Let's keep track. Because I was trying to find some ways to keep myself engaged in the movie. And I was like, okay, I got to watch this for the podcast. So I got to find some reason to keep watching. All right, cool. Maybe that was a stained glass window he got thrown through. All right, that's fun.
Well, and then the one guy gets shot, and it's like by a gun, and like the gunshot pushes him, or pushes I think it was the female police officer at the beginning, like 20 feet backwards. It like propels them. And then there's one time, and I mean, I hate to be this guy. It's the stereotypical thing, but I think Nick Nolte got like 10 or 11 shots out of the 6-shot revolver at the end. and I was like, wait a minute, come on, go back. 1, okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wait a minute, go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, he did. Okay, really, guys? I mean,
it's like when you were playing as kids. Do you remember when you play as kids and some people are like, I shot you, I got you. You're like, no, I have special armor that I'm wearing that is bulletproof and laser proof. And it's like, I have a special gun that is a 6-shooter that has 15 bullets in it. Well, you just shot 15.
Right.
It has an extra hidden chamber with 5 more bullets. And
yeah. It had too much of that kind of stuff in it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem is by the time you get to this movie, and Dennis, I'm glad you brought up the Lethal Weapon ones, because it's by the time you get to this movie, you've had so many really good buddy cop movies that this one comes out and I'm just like, I wasted whatever it was, an hour and 40 some minutes of my life here. I would have rather just gone back and watched Lethal Weapon, because I don't, the relationship between Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy in the first movie, I'm like, all right, okay, that kind of works. It's antagonistic, but it works for these two characters. They're not partners. They've been thrown together. They're very different people. And they've been thrown together for this specific purpose. In this movie, I'm like, they were bickering the entire time. And I'm just like, you know what? The partnership between Riggs and Murtaugh is just so much more endearing. I'd rather go watch that movie.
It grows.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that's how you could explain it. I think the connection between those two grows as the movie goes, as the sequels came with Lethal Weapon, and this one, it really just didn't go anywhere. It was just more cliche. And again, like, it's very unforgettable, or forgettable. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it. I mean, they're really beyond the Nick Nolte, Eddie Murphy kind of banter. There really isn't much to this. And I mean, Nick Nolte's fun to watch, and Eddie Murphy Eddie Murphy was like, I think he was like acting like completely over the top to try and do stuff. But I mean, it was like, it like there wasn't enough plot or anything to keep it together. You know what I mean?
That's why, like, when you guys said about this movie, I was like sitting there and I kept going back and I'm going, oh, the part with the redneck bar.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first one.
But
I know, I think, isn't there something in this one too, or something, but it's not the same. Like,
there's another bar and they yell at the bartender, but
it's not the scene. So when I typed up and looked up the redneck bar scene for another 48 hours, I'm like, this isn't the this wasn't fun. I thought I remember. Oh, that's because that was from the first one. The real funny one, the good one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's almost like a movie that didn't almost exist for me, even though I know I saw it back then. Totally forgettable.
He even has a line when they're in the bar in this one, and he's like, "Oh, really, we're going to get into a bar fight? That's such a cliched thing to get into a bar fight." And I'm like, "Oh, so we're okay. So let's break the fourth wall, pull back the curtain here, and let's just make a little commentary on our own movie about how this is getting kind of ridiculous,
how cliche it is, and full it is of cliches." Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I just looked online too, like, it was like 1 star, 2 stars from, it's.
So is there, we've talked a little bit about what did not obviously work about this movie. Is there anything about this movie that does work? Like, what did you, as you were watching it, what did you enjoy about this movie, if anything?
Eddie Murphy being Eddie Murphy, but you can get that in a stand-up routine, you don't need the extra stuff around it. His brand of comedy from this time period really works for me. Always has. So I feel like that was good. But that's it.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Eddie Murphy kind of makes it watchable. I'll put Nick Nolte in there too, because I think the two of them played off of each other well, and I think it was great. I'll use the I'll continue that sports reference that I did from last week. It's like they handed the ball off, and you have like an all-star player, and you have a guy that's great for blocking for him, and they're doing the best they can to keep the team moving forward, but that big sweeping run to the sideline, they just get kind of run out of bounds, or like down at the line of scrimmage. Like, it's like, I see where they're going. They're doing the best that they can, given the movie that they've, the script and the whole thing. But it's like,
well, then you get stuck in the sand trap, and you got to awkwardly chip your way out of that.
You get stuck in the sand trap and out.
You get called for high sticking, and
high sticking your grand slam, and it's all done. So that was kind of it. It like, even despite their best efforts, the movie never really like goes anywhere. And it's what everyone's already kind of said. There's not much of a plot or coherent. Who is the bad guy? What are we trying to do in this movie? I don't even really remember, except for when these 3 or 4 bad guys show up, we get into a shootout.
Yeah, there's like a corrupt cop thing going on. There's like a crime boss thing going on. There's a revenge story going on. I don't even completely remember why Eddie Murphy had to be in on this, other than that some of those guys were trying to get revenge on him. I know he was about to get out. I think his parole was up. And he was about to get out. But yeah, I don't know. There were several times as I was watching this movie, I had to stop and be like, okay, wait a minute. What's going on here? Like, I don't remember what the story is. I'm in the middle of watching this movie. I've been watching it for the last 20 minutes. I don't remember what the story is here. That's not a good sign. And my answer for this too would be Eddie Murphy. Like, that's the only thing about this movie that even caused me to continue to hold on until the thing was done. Pretty much everything else about this. I'm not a big Nick Nolte fan. I've never quite, I don't know. There's other actors that kind of do some of the things that he does, and I feel like does them better, or they're, more, I don't know if endearing is the right word, or maybe more charming about it, but it's just, I don't know that I care for him as an actor. Not that he's a bad actor. It's just, he's not my cup of tea. So, and how he ever got cast in any kind of like romantic leads in some of those movies and things like that, I have no idea. Because just, no. But yeah, Eddie Murphy, for me, that's about the only thing that works for this, and he doesn't work as well as he should have in this movie. Like you guys have said, it's like Eddie Murphy's best stuff. I can go watch Raw or Delirious and get so much more of that. I don't have to watch this movie because it comes few and far between in this movie. Like we've said it a couple of times, and I pulled up the quote just to see it when he's in the bar And he's like, he fires the gun up in the air and everybody kind of stops. And he's like, all right, knock this stuff off. I have been having a very bad day. I just got out of jail this morning. I've been shot at. I was on a bus that flipped over 17 times. Girl tried to stab me in the bathroom. Somebody blew up my Porsche. I am in a bad mood. Now, I usually don't jump in when somebody's getting beat down, but this man, Jack Cates, is going to help me straighten out the rest of my day. So I suggest you all back up and let us go about our business.
Yeah.
Like that little like outburst. I'm like, okay, that's the Eddie Murphy. That's the humor. That's the Eddie Murphy, like the like angry but funny. Like that's what I want to see. Let's have more of that. Mm-hmm. And it really didn't happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, the plot wasn't even. I mean, even when he walked back in to pick him up in the jail and he was playing basketball, like I had no feeling. Was this 5 minutes after the first movie ended? Was it 5 years after? Like I didn't get any vibe that, you know, Nick Nolte hadn't been to see him in 5 or 6 years. You know what I'm saying? Until Eddie Murphy had to just basically tell the audience that, like, you don't come see me for 5 or 6 years. Like none of that was conveyed, and none of the backstory was conveyed. Nothing like, why didn't Nick Nolte's character come to see Eddie Murphy? Why was he sitting on the cash? He was sitting on the cash for 5 or 6 years and then gives it to him at the end. And, you know,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I think this is just one of those movies that somebody was like, hey, y'all want to make some money?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just, this was big. And when the first one came out, it was big. Let's do it again. And, you know, it seems to me like it was just a money grab. The writing seems very lazy in this movie. You know, the whole thing, it just, and half the time it feels like it's very phoned in, by the actors, and, you know, and there's a lot of stuff in here where I said earlier, I feel like it was kind of a caricature of the first movie, is they don't do the work of developing the characters like they did in the first movie. In the first movie, from the moment you say go, you know, Nick Nolte, he's, you know, even though I don't really see him as much of like a romantic lead or anything like that, he's got a girlfriend. He's got a love interest. There's a human side to all of that. In this movie, I think they mention her once. He's like, so where's she at? You know, it didn't work out. And there's no love interest for him. There's none of that. And I think that keeps his character very two-dimensional, when he doesn't have anything else other than I got to find out who the Iceman is. I got to do this. It's all completely focused on him as the, you know, kind of washed up cop and trying to figure out this mystery. And it's just not, I don't know. It's not entertaining. It's not, the characters are just a photocopy of a photocopy of what they were in the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Is there anything before we're probably about ready for our 3 questions here in just a minute. I don't know if we got too much else we're going to say about this one, but is there anything they could have done to make this one better? Other than, I won't let you answer because that would have been my default answer. Other than more Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
What could they have done to make this movie better?
They needed a more clear reason for them to be together. The plot needed to have just a little more meat to it. Less just let them go, and more, you know, direction.
Yeah.
I don't remember the line being used in the movie, but I did hear it in the trailer just then. Something about one of them says, you know, we're going to let you out for another 48 hours. We're going to spend another 48 hours together. I don't remember that line being in the movie. So maybe that was something that was cut out. Maybe it was in there, but maybe I just missed it. But that's
no, I think it was cut, because it's funny, because they weren't letting him out for 48 hours. Wasn't he getting his release this time?
He was being released. And so it's like the movie's called Another 48 Hours, but why? Where's I figure if you're going to still call it 48 hours,
he needs to get the money that Jack has of his, and Jack's only going to give him the money after he helps him with this thing, because it involves people he used to know.
Yeah, but is it 48 hours?
Well, I think that's the intention. Whether it played off is a whole other story.
Yeah.
I think no is the answer to that.
Right. That would have, I mean, and that might have helped me a little bit. If there was one, if we're going to call it another 48 hours, then at least if the other stuff is not living up to what we would hope it would be, at least have another kind of gimmick where there's a time frame. Like why is this another 48 hours? What is it that's going on? Like I never really watched, I did a little bit here and there. My dad would watch it religiously. I never really watched 24 from like beginning to end, but I know in like 24, there's a set reason why, you got 24 hours for this, you got 20, but it's kind of a running theme of, well, the reason we're calling it 24 is because you got this countdown, you got 24 hours. So I don't know. To me, if you're going to call, even though it's a sequel, if you're going to call it another 48 hours, at the very least, you should have some kind of reason why something is going to take 48 hours to happen. Like, even if they're not going to fix the other problems we've had with this movie, at least throw that gimmick in there. Because then at least you're like, oh, okay, that's why it's called another 48 hours. That's probably a little nitpicky, but I'm like, oh, even that might have helped just a little bit.
You're not wrong. I mean,
no, you're not wrong. I'm just going to jump in with Bo and just say the plot. I mean, a memorable plot. That's why I've struggled with this movie. It's like, if you ask me another 48 hours, I'll say Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy, but I have no idea what it was about. Where the first one I could tell you the plot. This one I don't really remember the plot at all. So I think, just a better storyline, less cliches, and just like I said, I think it's just a kind of money grabbing sort of movie. Like, hey, let's do this. Eddie Murphy's bigger now. He's like big. And the sad thing is that when it's written by the same guys, that's the disappointing thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I would think if a writer, you're sitting there writing this and going, this is not as good as the first one. Whereas if you're somebody who didn't write it, the first one, you might be thinking, hey, this is really good. Maybe it's really good. But if you actually wrote the first one, which was good, which he did, the guy who wrote it, and now he's writing a second one, I would think your gut instinct would be like, yeah, this isn't up to par.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, I think, like you said,
the paycheck probably.
What was that?
The paycheck helps sometimes compromise your judgment.
I was going to say, maybe he was looking for a paycheck too.
Well, and I think, like more plot, like what are you trying to sell? Sell? What are you trying to tell? What story? I mean, why, is it the guy you're trying to get the money to pay off the guy's daughter? Or is it a revenge thing? Or who's the bad guy? Give us a little backstory on the bad guy. And it doesn't need to be tons. I mean, a good writer will find a way to tell us everything we need to know about the bad guy in 5 or 10 minutes. Die Hard had that. The first 48 Hours movie had it. Lethal Weapon has it. Just do something so we know who is the main bad guy, and let them have a little bit more of a prevalent part as well. Is this going to be a big thing where Nick Nolte's kicked off the force and going into jail? Well, if not, then don't put that in there. Don't put that plot thread in there, or just make him kicked off the force and he's kicked off the force and he's trying to work from, on his own. Yeah, I don't know. Just different ideas just to get a little focus. So who are that was my thing is who are the bad guys? Who are we trying to fight against? And I think if we would have seen some developed bad guys and known who we're supposed to be going against, I think that would have helped a little, just kind of bring a little coherence to the movie. I don't know.
Yeah. One of the other things I noticed about this, I was going to mention before we go into our 3 questions, was the music too. And I know that we've talked a few times about the whole James Horner thing and, him reusing his music and all that. But this one in particular, I was like, and I think it was just because I was getting frustrated with the movie. I was like, oh, come on. Let's pick up the pace here. Let's figure something out with a better story here. And then all of a sudden, as the music is playing, I had kind of forgotten in the back of my mind that James Horner did this one. As the music is playing, I'm like, and they even stole the music from Commando. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I can't even I'm hearing the music and I'm like in the back of my mind, like, oh man, I want to pull a Pat and just be like, I want to watch Commando. Like, everything Commando.
Well, it was like they went down to the studio where they had, did the Commando thing and stole all the steel drums,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it almost didn't make a whole lot of sense because isn't 48 Hours Isn't that San Francisco? Doesn't this take place in San Francisco? Isn't that the city that they're in?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Commando, when you've got some of the like tropical stuff and things like that, I'm like, okay, the steel drums make sense. I'm not sure the steel drums make sense in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's just me being kind of nitpicky at this point. But I think I was just getting frustrated with things. So I was like, as the music is playing, I was like, man, that's another movie that's a lot better than this. And I just want to go watch.
Yeah. I've heard they cut a lot out of this movie too. I read somewhere that like, and there were guys that like said, dude, like all my lines got cut, you know, and it's maybe that would have helped fill in some of these gaps. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like there was at least half an hour, like 40 minutes that was cut out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather significant amount of time.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we have anything else we want to say about this one before we jump into the 3 questions?
I mean, I feel bad if I'm just like taking a like totally, you know, lambasting the movie. I mean, it was, there's been other stuff that I've watched that's been worse. I mean, it's kind of, if you like watching Eddie Murphy and it's on, I don't think you need to like turn it off, but just know what you're getting into.
Right.
That it doesn't have the same magic as the first one.
If you want to watch something better, go watch 48 Hours or go watch Beverly Hills Cop or pretty much any one of those.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
God have mercy on our souls for watching this movie. Okay. Another 48 hours, our 3 questions this time around. Another 3 questions. Number 1, what is your favorite movie that features a jail or prison? I can start us off with this one. I did survey the family, so I do have some answers from the family here on this one, so I'll share those in just a moment too. I started kind of a brainstorm list of the movies I could think of that I really like that have some kind of a jail or prison in them. And I think the one I'm going to go with is because so many people give me a hard time. And we used to have another co-host that used to be on the podcast with us, Jason, has always given me a hard time for liking this movie. I'm going to go with Alien 3. I'm going to pick that one because it has the whole prison planet thing. And I had some other ones. I'm not going to list them off just in case any of you guys have them on your list. But once you go through yours, then I'll say whether or not I had them on mine. But so the one I'm going to go with Alien 3 for my movie that features a prison or a jail. I'm
going with Great Escape. One of my favorite movies, if not favorite movies. I'm going to.
I kind of figured you would. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take Great Escape.
Let's say The Count of Monte Cristo.
That was definitely very high up on my list.
Cool Hand Luke.
There you go.
There. All right.
Another good one.
You can't get too far away from a.
You're going to go there. Great Escape.
You can't get too far away from
from
a prison movie conversation and not mention The Rock.
Stalag 17.
Very nice.
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank, yeah.
There's a lot.
Con Air.
Yeah.
Raising Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we're trying to say is the institution no longer had anything to offer us.
Right.
We were, since my wife had been choosing last week, every one of her responses was basically John Travolta. I thought Face Off would be a good one for this one.
There you go.
At the prison with the magnetic boots.
Mm-hmm.
Also had on my short list of ones that I almost put in was Escape from New York. Also had Demolition Man. Just because I feel like lately I feel like we need to have a mention of Demolition Man in every episode of the podcast. And then I kind of feel like it has lately. I did also have Count of Monte Cristo on mine too. And then one of the other ones I threw in, just because I remember watching this movie and thinking that's a cool way to do a prison, is Magneto's prison cell at the end of X-Men.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Like the plastic prison room. Yeah.
Yes.
So Nora's choice for this one was the TV show The Flash. She enjoys that all the characters are kind of locked up in the bottom of the particle accelerator, and it keeps them from being able to like get out and use their powers and everything else.
Very cool.
And John Ezra chose the Star Wars. He chose the cell block in Star Wars.
All right.
We're all fine here. Thanks.
We're all fine here. No, thanks. How are you? By the way, I'm still mad at Navy SEALs for trying to use the line from "We're gonna have company." I can understand that. Not happy with that movie for doing that.
I can understand that.
Number 2, what movie that does not currently have one is most deserving of a sequel? Dennis is. I can tell Dennis is agonizing over this one. Just the look on his face. You're muted, Dennis. If you want to, can't hear you.
They want you to say grace. A blessing.
A blessing.
Well, see, I didn't think I was going to be on the another 48 hours one, so I didn't really pay much attention to that question. So it's like I'm stumped.
That's
so
right.
I'm gonna have to go last. I'm gonna defer right now. So stuff bouncing around my brain.
Okay, all right.
I've got an answer that I want to blow the internet up with, and then I've got another answer, and then
okay. Driven 2.
Can I blow up the internet? Are you guys okay with that?
Driven 2 Electric Boogaloo.
What was that?
I said Driven 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Driven 2?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There wasn't a first one of that one, was there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about, John.
Okay.
You don't talk about we don't talk about that movie, John.
Driven 2 Drivener.
I'm gonna say do I know how to drive? Yeah, I'll drive you crazy. So I'm gonna say this. Man. I want to see a sequel to the Ghostbusters movie that came out a couple of years ago with the all-female cast. I thought they were funny.
I would love to see that.
I want to see it, and I'd love to see them somehow tie the two worlds together or expand it and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of like, I was not shy about saying that I think a lot of the reaction to that movie just was like completely over the top from, hey, you know what, it's not my thing, or, I don't like the direction. Hey, leave me with the original. And there was so much other stuff. So I kind of don't mind just kind of sticking my thumb in the eye of that and blowing up the internet and saying, I'd love to see a sequel of that Ghostbusters. Like, give them a chance to build that up a little bit. And they're really funny comedians. I want to see more. So,
I would love to have seen a sequel to that one, because that's, and I know we've talked about this before. There is nothing that says you can't have a sequel to that movie and then also do some kind of like a Ghostbusters 3 or whatever, this next one that was coming out this summer was going to be.
Yeah,
you can do all of those. Like you're perfectly capable, and if nobody wants to see it, they won't come see it. But feel free to make it.
Yeah.
But Pat, that's not how the internet works. If it's not my cup of tea, it can't be yours either.
I know, man.
You must hate. It's the 2 minutes of hate. We must all hate, Pat.
Yeah, I know.
Join us. Hate with us.
I know.
No.
Here's the thing about this question, though. But the reason it's such a tough question I'm laughing. It's because there's so many movies that you're like, they're so darn good that you'd like to have a sequel, but the fear is if there's a sequel and it doesn't live up to it, it's like, why did you make the damn sequel? So it's a tough question. One that came to mind.
Okay, so pretend if they make the sequel, it will be excellent.
One that might not be on most people's radar. I'm going to go with one that left me going, Inception. I'm going to go with Inception. Damn, top at the end. I want a sequel.
Okay.
Did the top? Okay,
yeah,
spoilers for Inception. Warning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the listening audience, listening live. So did the top fall over or not?
Do I want a sequel? No, I think it did.
Didn't they have wasn't that called Interstellar?
Interesting.
And I liked, I say that, but I like
another
both
one
of them.
that
I like
did.
Interstellar and
There's two other ones that I've been kind of wrestling with of answering, and one you mentioned earlier, and that was Beetlejuice. I would have liked to see a second Beetlejuice. I think, because I think you could still go with that.
Yeah.
I don't think there could be something that happens, and like he's in the house. I think Beetlejuice would work. And then a long one that one of our first podcasts, I think, or one of the, or at least way back then, always said it'd be interesting to see follow up to Breakfast Club. What does happen the next day, the next week when they go back to school? Kind of interesting to see.
Brunch Club.
So there you go. I'm done.
Yeah.
For now. Prison movie, I'm throwing one more in. Green Mile.
Very nice.
Prison. I didn't want to get us off topic with this, but I'm just throwing in Green Mile real quick, came to mind. So. Yeah.
Escape from Alcatraz. Clint Eastwood, Escape from Alcatraz. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is this why we're supposed to do our homework ahead of time, John? And really
Not if you're Pat. Like Pat, a lot of times he'll think about it ahead of time, but then we'll get to this moment and he'll be like, I don't know. For 3 days I've been like racking my brain and I just can't. I love them all. It helps, but no, not really.
Frankly, Captain, I think you gave me too much time.
The obvious answer for me is going to be The Rocketeer. I would have loved to have seen a sequel to The Rocketeer. And I know that they've been looking at making one. I would have loved to have seen one way back when. Like I would have loved for that to have turned into some kind of like an Indiana Jones type franchise, because I think there's plenty of stuff that they could have done with it. And I've read some of the comics that have come out over the years. Those different comics, you could take those and you could adapt those into a movie and it would be great. And it's got all the same like 30s and 40s pulp stories that you could, throw him into and all kinds of good stuff. So that would have been my first answer. I do have a couple of other ones that I thought it'd be interesting at some point to have seen a sequel to Labyrinth. I thought there's, plenty that you could do with that. You could do some kind of a sequel to that. They actually did do a comic book that was a prequel to it, which was actually pretty good. So if they ever wanted to kind of go back and do that, they totally could. The one that might be a little controversial that I almost, if Rocketeer wasn't at the very top of my list, the one that I really would love to see, even today, I would still love to see a sequel to that a lot of people didn't seem to like. Pat, I think it was along similar lines to, well, I hate it because it's not, it's not what I wanted. It's not what it should have been. I would love to see a sequel to the Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
That was on my list for sure.
I wanted to see them make at least one or two more of those movies. I wanted to see more of, I love that movie. Like I'm not going to go through and rank my Star Wars movies right now because that would take another 3 hours. But, that movie, I have a lot of fun watching that movie. And I remember going back last year, I remember going back and we were watching through all of the Star Wars movies in order, in kind of, story order. And I remember getting to that one and it had been a while since I'd seen it. And I was like, I'm going to watch it. And in the back of my mind, I'm going to remember how a lot of people hated it. And they said it's a bad movie. And I remember watching it going, no, you know what? This is actually one of the most fun Star Wars movies that exists. Like I have a lot of fun watching this movie and I would love for there to be another one. There's probably not going to be, but I thought the guy did a great job as Han Solo. I would love to see another one. So if Rocketeer wasn't on my list, I would have definitely said Solo.
Yeah. Yeah. Solo's good. And honestly, I mean, I just, everyone can like what they like and all that. But sometimes I think that like the Star Wars, the dyed-in-the-wool Star Wars faithful, the only one they really liked was Empire Strikes Back. I think that's it. Because they got problems with Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. And then maybe they like the original Star Wars too, but there were problems with that. And they don't like the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi, so they're kind of iffy on that. And they don't like the prequels, and they don't like the sequels, and they don't like the this and that and the other thing.
Well, and what a lot of people forget is that in 1980, there were a lot of people that didn't like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, yeah. So really,
like it still made a lot of money, but there were a lot of people that are like, wait a minute, that's not like the Star Wars movie I remember loving 3 years ago. Bo, what's your sequel?
History of the World Part 1.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
That one's good.
Nobody went with
I thought
Spaceballs
that.
2, The Search for More Money?
I have that on the list
Oh,
also. I was just going to say, I also have that. I also have Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yeah.
Dune,
Yes.
and Coming to America.
Nice.
What
Well, yeah.
happened after they go back to Zamunda?
Well,
Zamunda
yes.
forever.
You know you're getting a sequel to that one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
Supposedly, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
So Sharon said, I'm not sure that John gave me one. Sharon said that she would have chosen Cold Mountain. She really liked that book, and really liked the movie. So she said that one. She would just like to see the characters that remain at the end of that movie continue on and see another story.
Is there a second book or no?
No, he wrote other books, but not sequels. Yeah,
nothing related to it. Okay.
And Nora, actually, her answer was on my list too. We had actually just watched this a few weeks ago, and she really enjoyed this movie. And same thing. It was another one that did not do well for various reasons, but I really liked this movie. The kids really liked it when we watched it, just a few weeks ago. Nora chose John Carter.
Oh,
John Carter was good.
Yeah, and I really like that one is up there with like Count of Monte Cristo for me, and some of the other ones. But that's another one that I would love to have seen a sequel made to that one too.
I could see sequels. So the other one I thought of was Point Break. I'd love to see another Point Break type thing.
Point Breaker.
Point Breaker. Point Breakation. Yeah, more Bodie. Like that, Patrick Swayze was just great in it. Keanu, and I don't know, that one would have been fun.
Point Break 2, the Quickening.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. All right.
Like your original
3.
thought, Point Break 2, The Reckoning.
There you go. Work. Yeah, The Reckoning. Yeah. All right. Question number 3. What is your favorite Eddie Murphy SNL skit? And this one I couldn't ask the kids because the kids had not really seen any Eddie Murphy SNL. I did show them. I showed them one or two skits of the Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood because that was Sharon's pick right away.
Yeah.
So I did have to show them one or two of those clips.
Buckwheat.
That was mine. Yep. Once Buckwheat sings a song, it's eternally his. It's nice. Fetines a matey. Yes, all the hits are here. Wookin' Panub. Yeah.
All right. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, whoever answered first, and then once they answer, I've got my backups. But yeah, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. But I'm gonna go with the James Little Richard Simmons.
Nice.
There's that one. James, the Little Richard Hot Tub Party.
Yep.
Sorry, James
Brown Hot Tub. Hot Tub.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. That's awesome. The Gumby, when he did Gumby, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm Gumby.
Yeah, my name is not the Gum, it's Gumby.
Yeah, I'm Gumby.
And then also when he does the undercover thing. And he like dresses up like a white person and goes undercover.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Was it White Like Me? I think was the segment.
Yeah, that one. I always find that it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
If you'd like a bank loan, and you know what, pay it back or don't. We don't care.
Yeah, I know.
I do also enjoy. I can't really quote too much of it, but I do enjoy a good Velvet Jones skit.
Yeah,
Jones is pretty funny.
From my new book,
Stevie Wonder and Frank Sinatra.
Oh yeah.
I tell you, after the last couple of weeks, with these 3 questions, all I'm going to do right now after this recording is done is go pull up the best of Eddie Murphy YouTube clips and make some pasta.
Pasta.
What was that, Dennis?
I said there's one. I just literally Googled it, and it comes up with pretty much all the skits we mentioned.
Yeah.
White Like Me. Yeah, that was the name of that one. Buckwheat, Gumby. And they have the clips right there for you to watch. Little Richard Simmons, James Brown Celebrity Hot Tub Party, Dion. I don't remember that. Oh wait, was that the hairdresser?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Raheem Abdul Muhammad and Tyrone Green, a recurring Weekend Update guest.
Oh yeah.
Black Media Frustration with White America with a Smile. Is prison poet Tyson Green. I don't know. Those two have to look. I don't completely. I vaguely remember. John David Stuth. Multi-breaking news parody of Buckwheat being shot. Oh yeah, well it was Buckwheat, but it was the one where he gets shot. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm shot. Replaying it over and over. I do remember that was a good one.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for episode number 298, another 48 hours. The verdict after this one is go to YouTube and watch a bunch of Eddie Murphy skits from SNL. I think that might be a slightly better use of time, is what we're going with.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And prison movies.
And prison movies, sure. And sequels. And pretty much anything other than this. But yeah. Just not this sequel. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you, Bo. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Dennis.
Yep.
Thank you, John.
All right. So we're going to be back here next time. Next week will be the final episode for our comedy theme for the month, 299 Arachnophobia. And then after that, episode number 300. So if you want to find out more about 300 and what we're doing for that one, check out our posts on social media at 30 Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those different places. Feel free to call in if you want to leave in some of your own answers for that one, and we'll respond to them on the show. And then, so Arachnophobia coming up next week, 300 coming up after that one. And I think we're all working out. We're all getting the 300 workout from the movie so that we can do maybe a video podcast, and we'll do it shirtless. Bo, that's the same look you gave me last time I said that.
I wonder why.
On that note, we'll see you all back here next week for Arachnophobia. So everybody be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we'll see you back here next time.